Hey everybody, this is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com here in San Diego, California. So, hypothetically, you own a 2020 or newer Vespa GTS 300, only the GTS 300 from 2020 and newer, or you have the new BV 400, which isn't so new and it's out of warranty, or you have a MP3 500 that has the HPE motor, so pretty much I think it's a 2020 and later MP3 500, and you need to diagnose the problems with it. You know, these are complicated scooters with sophisticated electronics on, which is all for a good thing because they're typically very reliable. But if there is a fault, maybe you're watching this video 10 years from now, it's 2022 right now, and the scooter's well out of warranty and it's time for you to figure it out. Maybe you got a 2020 and it's got a problem and you want to figure out the problem. Well, we got the solution for you. So we got an onboard diagnostic tester with a specific plug that's used on these newer Vespa and Piaggio scooters. So I can't predict the future, but I'm certain the future holds that they'll continue using this little 6-pin connector. And I'll show you how to use this tool and this cable here on how to diagnose problems with your, like I like to say right now, it's hard to say in a video, a newer Vespa GTS. So first of all, I'm gonna kind of replicate a problem. I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna do to it, but I'm gonna turn the scooter on. This is my GTS here, and it's not gonna start. I already know it's not gonna start because I induced a couple faults in it. It's a brand new scooter right now, so obviously there's no faults. I see the check engine light's on right there. There's a check engine light, but I know it's not gonna start. I can crank and crank and crank and crank, and it's not gonna start. And we're just gonna have a fault with it. And I need to figure out what's going on with it. All right, so on pretty much any GTS, even the older ones that don't use this interface, they've always had the diagnostic connector underneath. So you want to pop the seat, re-pull the bucket out, and we're going to go ahead and locate the diagnostic connector. So on these 2020 year model and newer GTSs, and the rest of the world is actually 2019 is when they started using this connector. You push this little tab right here, there's a little plug. Don't want to lose that little plug because that keeps the integrity of the seal for the connector. So plug the little connector in, and the tool is going to power up even though the scooter's not on. But I'm going to go ahead and turn the scooter on and kind of show you how to use this here. So we're going to go hit you have the up and down, pretty simple to use, and the OK, which is like an enter key, and then that's the return key. So 4 basic keys. So it works pretty good. It's on highlighting diagnosis. It's going to do some basic, determination of what protocols this uses. I think communicates to the scooter via CAN bus. The readinesses are okay. That's not, there's, with onboard diagnostic, it kind of monitors certain sensors on the vehicle to make sure they're within parameter. And that's how you can figure out what's going on with them. So my check engine light's been on the scooter for a while. Like I said, I induce these codes to happen. So we're going to go ahead and read codes. It's getting supported codes. There's going to be 2 codes on the system. It says engine coolant temperature sensor circuit high. So code like that, you ask, what does high mean? You got to understand, much more about onboard diagnostic and how it works. High means the signal is held high. Well, the way the computer works is it actually puts a voltage on the sensor, and the sensor actually brings the voltage down to get an accurate reading. So sensor high could be an open circuit. Well, guess what? I induced the open circuit. This is the connector for your temperature sensor. So typically it would probably be a faulty temperature sensor. I'm gonna go ahead and plug that back in so we don't have a problem with that. And there's one more code. So we're gonna go ahead and scroll down. These are DTCs. So that's a P0118 generic temperature sensor high. Ironically, I diagnostic and plug the connector back in, but that could be an open circuit connector is how you can get that kind of error. So it's showing two errors. There's a current error and a pending error. Current means it's actively happening, you know, so if I reread the errors, the current error will go away, but the pending error will still be in there, and it'll eventually be a stored error if it doesn't come back after so many ignition cycles. I don't know the exact count, but that's typically how that works. So I'm gonna just show you how to introduce another error. So we're gonna go ahead, plug everything in here, and I'm gonna go back. I want to go ahead and go down and erase codes. My check engine light's on. Go ahead and erase codes. Hit OK. Are you sure? Yes. Let's see. Turn ignition on with the engine off. Hit OK. Engine's not on. Emissions related diagnosis has been cleared. So well, we're going to go ahead and try to induce another issue with it. So this may be useful. You could do data stream. We'll go ahead and hit OK. And getting supported data. And it shows you engine coolant temperature. The ECT is the engine coolant temperature. You can look up all those acronyms. Vehicle speed, there's your RPMs. The MAP is manifold absolute pressure, which is a sensor that's inside the throttle body. And that's how it calculates your fuel injection, and also the ignition advance, which is right down here, V-spark advance. Intake air temperature, IAT, 24 degrees Celsius. Throttle position, TP is a percentage, so the throttle is about 3.9%. You can see that raises when it goes up. So there's several parameters. These are going to be really hard to understand what those numbers mean unless you have a baseline, say you know exactly what the correct readings are. But I'm going to try to introduce another error with this scooter. So I'm playing with the fuel injection connector. And we'll see if we get an error, because I just disconnected the fuel injector. Typically you'd end up maybe with a broken fuel injection connector or I don't know, issue with a connector or whatever, you know, but let's see if we could pull up an error for that. Of course, I'm introducing all these errors. It's hard to, you got a new scooter, it doesn't really have any issues. All right, so the injector connector is disconnected, and look at this. Injector circuit open, cylinder 1. Well, there's only one cylinder, so you got a P0201, which is open circuit for the injector. Well, I obviously induced that error. My check engine light is nice and solid in my face. Scooter's not going to start. And once you restart it, let's see what happens here. So we're good. Let's try reading the codes again. Hit OK. And it still has a check engine light on because it's going to take several power cycles. It's still, the computer detected a fault. So we're going to go ahead and erase those codes. And check engine light's on. Probably turn the kill switch off right here. And the code has been cleared, so the check engine light's off. So there's so many different codes that could come up. I'm just replicating 2 of them by just disconnecting connectors on this new scooter. Maybe in the future I'll come up with some, you know, if I see specific problems with this era of scooter, I'll be able to tell you more about it. The most common error you may have is something like a oxygen sensor that's out of range, and it not necessarily is your oxygen sensor has failed. It could be an air leak on the intake. So if you have a lean condition or air getting introduced into the intake or exhaust, it causes the oxygen sensor to show up as an error that's triggering your check engine light. So a lot of times throwing parts at the problem isn't the solution. You want to diagnose what it is. In some of my past videos, I showed how to check for air leaks, even though they're on 14-year-old Vespa GTSs. They all apply to these modern 2023 new models here as well. The nice thing is you could just use a simple code reader versus some of those early ones need proprietary tools to diagnose. So that's definitely a plus that you could do that, and just giving you an idea of what you can do. So you're looking to buy this and have it on hand. Maybe you don't have any dealers around and you're wondering how to get this from scooterwest.com. So this whole setup right here, it's pretty easy to find on our website, scooterwest.com. Just search for tool scan OBD scanner. So that's the specific scanner that works on any of these very new GTSs, pretty much 2020 and newer Vespa GTS 300s, the BV 400, pretty much any years, starting in 2022, and same with the MP3 500 starting around 2021 or 2020 and newer. So if you have the diagnostic connector, it looks like this little red 6-pin thing, this scan tool will work for you. And it's referred to as a Euro 5 standard, so that's why they have this style connector. So maybe you're a little more savvy and you don't need to have the scan tool. This is actually a really nice scan tool for being a little compact unit with only 4 buttons. I've used on modern automobiles that use the standard OBD connector, and it works really good actually. I kind of find it a little better than some of my more advanced scan tools. I have one that syncs with a tablet that tells you a lot of stuff, and you look at data streams and new graphs and all that. But just to look up a basic code and look at some basic stuff, this is pretty useful. So you could use it for more than just diagnosing issues with your scooter. So if you're a really savvy do-it-yourself mechanic and you have a modern OBD2 scanner, I'm not talking an old one, you have a very modern one that supports like the latest CAN bus standards. That's just one of the ways, the protocols that, or the 2 wires that uses to communicate to these scooters. You can also buy this cable that adapts the OBD2 standard to the 6-pin plug that's used on these scooters. You can find that on the Scooter West web store, tool scan OBD. Pretty inexpensive little cable, but really useful. It's like a Scooter West exclusive. We have these made for us. But it works to help you diagnose problems with your modern Vespa. Thanks for watching. This robot here from Vespa Motorsport and scooterwest.com. It's the first time you stumble across this channel, consider going to the Vespa Motorsport YouTube homepage on YouTube. Just type Vespa Motorsport, and I have hundreds of videos on repairing and servicing and accessorizing your Vespa, whether you're dealing with a vintage Vespa that's got the shifter on it or any of these modern Vespas. Thanks again for watching. Robot here from Vespa Motorsport. See you on the next one.